Good morning. Welcome to Caffeinate Your Career. Today's topic, remote work versus working in the office. I'm your host, the career coach with the most, Jason Hopper. With me today, back again, is the world-renowned recruiter, Jim Moore. Jim, welcome to Caffeinate Your Career.
Thank you, Jason.
Let me check and see if we are live. And I think we are. Let's see. Yeah? No? Here we go. Guys, if you can see us and we are live, let me know. Yeah, we're live.
Awesome.
All right. So that's good. So, Jim, since the pandemic, remote work versus working from home has been a heated topic, to say the least. And there are two sides to it all the time. But today, I think what we'll do is we'll break down, talk about the advantages and challenges from working from home, the advantages and challenges working in the office, and what employers are doing now, and what's going to happen in 2025.
Absolutely.
So part of what the problem is is if you're at home, are you productive? Which is more productive? Working in the office, working at home? What is it that is going to foster a better team environment? When we just had this conversation, if I'm at home, how do you know I'm really working?
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm in the office and I come in the office and I just shut my door, how do you know I'm really working?
Yes.
Right? And it's like these are all questions that come up like a fair amount. Just quick take. What are your thoughts on just real fast before we run over through all the other stuff?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed having my team as executive recruiters in an office. We were able to bounce ideas easily off one another. We were able to hear the other recruiter talking to a candidate on the other end of the phone live. And it also motivated us to get back on the telephone because, you heard all the other recruiters talking to somebody and you're sitting there blank. You're sort of encouraged by yourself to get back on the phone and do more. So I did like the in-office experience. The downside is I had people commuting 45 minutes to get there, and that's a period of their life they're never going to get back. Once COVID happened and we were forced to be online, we found a way to work with it. I think having virtual calls, meetings with your teammates are critical through the week if you don't have the ability to work in an office or whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think saying kind of, it's interesting because somebody had said at one point before the pandemic, when you were working in the office 5 days a week, you weren't complaining.
Yep.
Now it's after the pandemic and you're complaining and you want to stay continuing working from home.
Right. No, I understand that. And having the flexibility of, maybe not necessarily, putting on a business outfit every day, having to maybe purchase lunches, where you are because you're not at home, you can't go in the kitchen. Those are negatives.
Yeah.
But on the same token, I think the biggest negative of working at home is the isolation piece.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges. So the flexibility, so from working from home, flexibility is a big perk.
Mm-hmm.
So long as your employer is okay with a flexible schedule.
Right.
Most places are going to want you to work from, 8 to 5, 9 to 6, whenever your scheduled time is when everybody else is working and in the team.
Yep.
But sometimes some employers are pretty flexible on your time. And I'll use my wife in this example. She has the flexibility to go pick up our son after school at 4:45 when he's done with football practice. But then she also, because of the work that she does, she's a senior program manager. She will sometimes work until 8, 9 o'clock at night because her manager knows she's doing the work. She's putting that work in.
Right.
And so balancing that Will's work-life responsibilities is a big plus.
Right. But, from a promotion standpoint, out of sight, out of mind. Vice president's in the office. He's seeing those people engage within the office. Comes time to promotion, you're virtual. Are you going to be considered for that promotion? That's another consideration for working in an office versus working virtually.
I think increased productivity could be an advantage for working at home as well. I again use my wife Stephanie in this example because she prefers to work from home. If she's in the office, people keep stopping by and wanting to talk to her.
Right.
She's got a little more distractions in the office.
Right.
I know for me, I'm more distracted working from home than I am in the office. Like I will sit in my office, I'll talk to clients. People are walking by my window constantly. Or there's a lot of traffic accidents at that corner.
Right.
Doesn't bother me. But like I'm at home and working from home, and it's like, what's that noise? And I just go look out the window. I was like, oh, there's a squirrel out there. It's like it's just I'm too distracted at home.
I see. Different strokes for different folks. I think the employer just wants to ensure that if you are working from home and you have a set period of time you need to be working, or the results are important that you produce, that there's some sort of ability to monitor that employee. How do you monitor that employee that they're actually doing the job?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned commuting a minute ago too, and you had an employee that drove 45 minutes to get there.
Yes.
First rule I learned in recruiting: never underestimate how far somebody's willing to drive for a job.
I hear you. I get it.
That's not me. When I was working as a recruiter, and this, like staffing agencies are a dime a dozen. There's almost one on every street corner. So if I had to drive more than 30 minutes someplace, I just didn't do it. But before she moved to North Dallas, my wife had a house in Fort Worth, and she worked at the FedEx corporate office at the Galleria and drove from Fort Worth to North Dallas and back every day. But she didn't mind. She liked it. But working from home, you ain't got to go nowhere.
Right. Well, the one advantage of a long commute is the ability to learn. There's podcasts, there's language programs. There's all sorts of opportunities in a long commute. But nevertheless, you can never get that time back. If it's an hour each way, that means your day is now not just 8 hours, but it's 10 hours. And you have a family. I mean, how do you handle all of that? And before the pandemic, it was no brainer. You're going to work and you can do the commute. But I think we've learned that a hybrid makes sense.
I think it's the fact that even working from home, the work can get done and will still continue to get done. There will always be remote jobs, always. But we'll talk about that. Now, you mentioned a minute ago, like one of the challenges of working from home would be you're by yourself.
Yes.
You're isolated.
Yeah.
It's just you and the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sometimes can waylay you from being productive. Again, the distractions that you mentioned.
Yeah.
The dog's barking. He needs to go out. Somebody's coming to the door. There's your spouse is needing to ask a question. I mean, multiple things that may take you off the focus of the day.
Well, that's the other part of that too, is like if you're, and I just had a client that was interviewing for a position that was completely remote. Like everybody was remote.
Mhm.
And I'm like, one question you may want to ask is, how do you guys foster a team environment when none of y'all are in the same area?
Without a doubt, makes perfect sense. How do you do that?
Right?
Yeah.
Because that is one of the things that, like, if you can't do everything by yourself, you have to have a team. So how is that going to play out? Right?
Right.
The other things that challenge for working from home it is blurring the boundaries between work and home life.
Mm-hmm.
And I had read an article like when we were in the pandemic, and it was talking about make sure that your setup or where your office is separate from where you do other activities.
Mm-hmm.
And so my setup in the home office is actually in the dining room. So like right behind me is my dining room table.
Mm-hmm.
And I still do. Like if I go and I'm eating or going to have lunch or dinner, I would not sit in the chair that I use to work. I would sit on the other side of the table to make that delineation.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like otherwise it felt like I was still working. And oftentimes I was sitting there and eating whatever, a sandwich or whatever I'm eating,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still doing email.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no distinct line between the two.
Well, and then also, at the end of the day, it's so easy to go and sit in that office chair and continue to work through the night. And that's something that you have to have some sort of control. And the separation piece is I think very helpful.
Yes, I did that when we were in the pandemic and we were working from home. Is again my home office in the dining room, so I'd be rolling through the dining room on the way to the kitchen to get a drink, and just stop real quick and check my email. And now I'm actually emailing, and it's 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I'm still working.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like now when I go and log off, because I am in the office Monday through Thursday. I work from home Friday because pretty much everybody in my organization works at home on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's time, it's quitting time, 5:30, just completely shut the computer down and walk away.
Well, right. It's very difficult to do for some.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be any different actually working in an office, having that office, the ability to interact with the computer at home as though you're in the office. I mean, you got to understand that there's a time for work and there's a time for play, and you need both.
Yep, absolutely. So advantages, Jim, for working in the office. You mentioned the social interaction, that spontaneity between the team. You said earlier about like when y'all talked to a candidate and had a placement, everybody was like involved.
Absolutely, I agree. Communication, in person, non-distracting. There's times where it would be really easy to walk down the hall and talk to the trainer to help understand how to improve a situation that just occurred. And now you can do it on telephone, you can do it virtually, but in office is easier.
I agree, and I also think that the message, because when you communicate with somebody, what is said and what is heard is sometimes two different things. And I think it's easier to get your message across when it's in person.
I agree.
Like I need some clarification on an email that HR sent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after this, I'm going to go walk down to her office and be like, I don't understand your email. What?
Well, the problem with emails is they're so flat, and they can be construed in different ways. So that's why I think face-to-face, one-on-one is something you can't eliminate.
When you're talking a minute ago about work-life balance, if you go into the office and at the end of the day you leave, there is a clear separation between the two.
There is.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I don't have my email or Teams on my phone. I know some of my coworkers do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. And the reason I don't is if I see that little bing push notification, I'll be like, oh, go check that out and go look at it.
Jason, I think you're a rarity. I think most people are going to have both their personal and office accessible. But I was that way, and I couldn't stop looking at that. So I think it makes sense that you're doing that.
But it's so funny because I don't have it, I miss stuff. And I was like the other day, um, uh, we had a big event last week.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys are local and you don't know, we're moving. JFS is moving. We're not moving far. We're just moving like a mile away from North Dallas to the city of Addison. And last week we had a big groundbreaking event, and our volunteer manager needed something from me and sent me a Teams message. Well, I was at lunch, and then we did walking club. We had walking club from 12:40 to 1. And I caught her outside. She goes, I just sent you a message and you didn't respond. I'm like, I haven't been back at my desk.
Right.
And I don't have it on my phone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, what do you need? Well, how can I help you? Right.
Yeah.
But I missed it. And with what I do, there aren't a lot of emergencies.
I get that.
Right. Same for as a recruiter. Yes, some things would blow up sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
But for the most part, it's like you don't have a job today. You're probably not going to have one between the hours of me not being here at 5 to 8:30 when I get in the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else can pretty much wait.
Right. Well, but in the case of the recruiter who is sending a candidate off to meet a hiring authority and they don't find each other, and it's a night meeting.
Or
yeah, you've got a challenge. You got to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, I was an on-site manager, and I was basically on call 24/7 because I had third shift, and if one of my employees ran into something on a forklift like a rack, I'm getting a call at 3 a.m.
Oh yes. Yep.
And now I'm not able to go back to sleep because I'm worried about how bad is the damage? Is my company going to have to pay for it?
Yeah.
Is this guy impaired? And now I got to be back up and in the office at my on-site at like 8 a.m. to have them, or actually not even true, have to be there at 6 when they get off to have him do all the paperwork and the incidents and send him to do a drug screen and all the other things. So, things can happen really quick, but not today. Not with me.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Challenges of working in the office, obviously traffic and stress.
Yep.
Do you have road rage?
No.
Oh, you have a Tesla. You could just have your car drive you. You shouldn't have any road rage.
That's true. I don't.
In fact, I know for sure because a few weeks back, you're like, I went to like 5 places today. Didn't drive to a single one of them. I had my car do it. I hate driving. Absolutely hate it.
You'd love the Tesla.
I bet I would, man. I'm not due for a new car yet. I drive a Mini Cooper. And
my wife has a Mini Cooper. She loves that car.
Love my Mini Cooper.
Oh, without a doubt.
It is the best. But I like driving it, but I also just hate driving. And so no commute. So less stress there. Clothes. You don't have to, if you're working in the office, you got to put on a polo shirt.
Well, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're working from home, you don't have to, one, worry about the cost of clothes or buying new clothes, but two, you can work in your sweatpants.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
I do, if it's a brand new client and it's Friday and I'm working from home, I will grab a polo shirt. But if it's an existing client, I'm just wearing a t-shirt. Because let's not pretend I'm walking around in a button down in my house. That's just not a thing. So yeah, usually the new clients, they see me once in the polo shirt and then it's just a t-shirt from then on.
Well, I have to put on a shirt like this, Jason, because sometimes I have trouble waking up in the morning. So wearing a shirt like this actually wakes me up.
It's also part of who you are. You always have a nice, colorful shirt on, right? Office environment. So there's a lot. Could be less flexibility working in the office, just because. It's work. I mean, my day is pretty structured. I know exactly what's happening all day today, because of where everybody is, and where my meetings are going to be as well. So some people like structure, some don't. But I'm one that if I don't have a plan for the day, there's not going to be a lot of productivity. Yeah, right. And then like when I have time, when things happen, like if a client cancels, okay, well, I probably need to write the notes for this live stream, and that's when that stuff gets done.
Well, some people need structure. My son, an example. My son graduated straight A's from high school. Didn't have to study. Got a 4-year scholarship to a college. 4 years. At the end of the first year, he was asked to leave because he failed. He didn't study. Didn't realize he have to do that. He didn't have to do that in high school. We tried him in junior college for 6 months. Still didn't happen. My ex-wife married a former lieutenant colonel in the Air Force who suggested he join the Air Force. He found that structure to be what he needed. He's been in it 16 years. He's now a major in the Air Force.
That's awesome.
It made a difference for him. He's under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of structure. He has to go into office every day, but he's learned a lot. He's matured, and it's a good thing for some people.
Yeah, I'm like that too. I mean, I don't want it to be micromanaged, but I do need a plan. And I think like just in general, like for like job search, like if you don't have a plan to your job, it's one of the questions I ask every client, like in the first meeting, is what has been your process for a job search up until this meeting? Because most of the time it's like, well, I'm on Indeed a lot. I'm like, that's not going to be helpful or even kind of close to a process.
Right.
And then it's my job to help create that process.
So how do candidates, interact? Say they need practice. Is there anything that you do at Jewish Family Service for practice?
We do, Jim, and that's a good segue to today's commercial. We do have a practice interview program, guys. We do it the second and fourth week of each month. The next time we're going to be doing it is on the 8th. So next Tuesday at 1 and 2 o'clock Central. It's virtual, so you can practice anywhere in the world.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I think candidates need this practice. The more practice you can get, the more interviews you can get, the more comfortable you will be when you finally get in front of the hiring manager who you really want to work there. But you need to have the skills. Yeah.
If you want to do it, I do still have a couple of spots left at both 1 and 2 o'clock Central. Email me, put mock interview in the subject line and tell me what time slot you want. My email is the letter J, Hopper, HOPPER at jfsdallas.org.
Does it cost anything?
No, it's free.
Oh.
We have a whole team of volunteers, you included.
Yeah.
Yes, that are taking time out of their day to help you guys interview better. And we're adding people to the team.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I've already got one set up. She will be starting in November. I'm going to be making some changes. So, if y'all want to do that, let me know. You got to practice. Jim, so right now, a lot of companies are doing more of a hybrid type of model where you're in the office 3 days a week and you're able to work at home like 2 days a week. This way, you kind of get a little bit of both things happening. Although, did you see in the news the other day that Amazon said they want everybody in the office 5 days a week?
I did.
And a lot of people were not happy. I think like from an employer standpoint, if they're going to spend could be millions of dollars on a facility, they're going to want you in it. In fact, and now again, I don't think that remote work is ever going to go away. There will always be some kind of remote work. But I just spoke to a couple weeks ago, talked to a recruiter at Beacon Hill, talked to the regional manager, Shauna, and asked her. Well, actually, I didn't ask her. They were nice enough to do a webinar for us. And somebody asked the question, how many remote jobs do you have right now? She said, we're working on many, many, many jobs. Only one is remote.
Interesting.
So most places are moving into we're on a hybrid model.
But on the counter of that,
Yes.
or to add to that, I have a friend who's working for a bank, and they have downsized their headquarters. And they have done so such that now the employee who is working remote, somebody else is in the desk, is sitting at that desk that day. And when it's the employer's time to come in, they switch. So they don't have to add any additional offices. The employee is working virtual, and it works very, very well.
I think there are for sure some jobs that can be done completely remote, but they're not because the employers don't want. My job could be done completely remote. Right?
Yeah.
With clients. I do prefer that they come in to see me, just because that interaction is the interaction and establishing trust goes a lot faster if they're in person and I can see them.
But you can see them virtually.
Right, but I'm not able to pick up on all of the cues. Like if you're sitting across the desk from me and you're kind of nervous because you don't understand what coaching is and how this is working, and your leg is going up and down, I can see that. I can't see that on a camera.
I get that.
Right? I think, too, that's one of the reasons why when we were in the pandemic and everybody was at home, that hiring took a lot longer. Did you find that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because we can't pick up on some of the cues that we normally would in person.
I agree.
I just went and I did interview prep with a client just yesterday. It's a virtual interview, and I'm like, it's a whole other animal than doing it in person.
Oh, yes. And then there's these some of these companies now that are doing solo video interviews. So basically, it asks you questions, you answer. It asks you another question, you answer, but it's not a human. You're just talking into a recorder. And I would think that from a candidate standpoint, that would be very hard to do.
Well, also, too, we're not being on camera is not a natural thing.
Right.
In fact, I worked for a company years ago, and that was one of the things that we did is we would do like a quick 1.5 to 2 minute bio that we could send to clients, right?
Yeah.
And we ended up like scrapping the whole thing because it took quite a lot of takes and a lot of time to get it done just for one candidate that we are going to send out. The technology's there, the idea is good, but just like as humans, we're just not comfortable doing it. I know for me, I can do this, no problem. I could probably take my phone, do a live stream, and just be like, "Hey guys,"
right.
But if my marketing coordinator, Basha, came in and sat me down and said, "All right, Hopper, we're going to do, I want you to answer this question about resumes." And I'm sitting there recording it, I'm going to screw it up at least 2 or 3 times.
Well, sure, I get that.
And now she's good at what she does. She should go back and edit it. But it's one of the reasons like if you watch or see my content on LinkedIn, there's no video content. And the reason is I don't have the patience to go back and edit it. I just don't.
But, the negative virtue of virtual meetings, virtual interviews, is you lose 2 senses. One, you lose the sense of smell. And the other, you lose the sense of touch. And both of these, I think, are really, really important when you're interviewing somebody who's going to be on your team. Both.
The smell thing is interesting to me. Like, I mean, do they smell funky?
That's
Did it
right.
have too much cologne
That's
on?
right.
Okay. I can't smell.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I've always got allergies. My nose has been broke a few times in my life, and I just can't smell unless I'm really close to something.
Somebody smelling of alcohol, somebody smelling
Oh.
of cigarettes, or something other, or body odor. I mean, that's a piece that you can't do virtually.
Yeah.
And of course, the other is, how about shaking that hand? What's that hand feel like?
Yeah.
You don't get that.
Right. Well, and again, that's kind of one of the things too that we will do prep on is like the handshake,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I had even still, I had a client come in and I went to shake her hand and she gave me this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what are you doing? Are you the princess? Like what? Like did we not
Right.
go over handshake
Yes.
101?
Right.
And so again, that's kind of one of the things that you want to prep on,
Mm-hmm.
or they get the
Right.
like limp fish,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Or guys who want to try to crush you.
Right. Or even, and you can see this virtually. You can see the outfit and what it looks like from the top down to the waist. But what's the rest of it look like? I mean,
Right.
you can't see that.
Right. And well, that was when I do talk about virtual interviewing and do interview prep, I do suggest that you dress head to toe as if you were going out in person.
Without a doubt.
It's a mindset thing more than anything else.
Right.
And also too, like what if because we're on camera, like what if the camera just kind of started moving down and I had to get up to adjust it.
Right.
And now you can see what I am wearing.
I think there's been some politicians with problems identified by that.
Yes, that has come up. So it's like always a good idea to wear pants.
Right. Yeah.
They like it when I wear pants in the office.
I bet.
It's like, hey, gotta come in the office. You gotta put pants on, Hopper,
Yeah.
and keep them on.
I think the key that the candidate needs to figure is you need to have some flexibility. If the employer wants you to be in the office, be in the office. If the employer is good with flexibility, be flexible.
I think that's right because you don't want to miss an opportunity.
No, you don't.
I mean, this could be your dream job, and you're like, oh, I've got to be in the office. Yeah. Okay. Well, and I was just talking to Stephanie the other day, my wife, and I'm like, and I said, well, essentially what I do is client services.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be, in front of people.
Yeah.
It's just part of the job.
Now, obviously, you're never going to eliminate the retail employee who's having to be there and interacting with customers on a regular basis. But my wife and I talked about this today also. She was a barista, and she loved being a barista. What she didn't like was people.
That could be a problem right there.
She didn't like the attitudes, some of the holier than thou attitudes, walking up to a coffee stand and being jerks. And you're going to face that in retail, or you're going to face that in an office setting, no matter what. So sometimes being virtual can eliminate some of that nonsense.
That's the thing too. Like that's not anything you can control.
It's not.
You can only control your attitude.
Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah, that's funny. She loved being a barista, didn't like the people. I jokingly say that. I'm like, man, this is a great job if it wasn't for the clients.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like no, but I do enjoy what I do and talking to clients as well.
Well, that's important. You do a great job, Jason.
Oh, thank you. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, remote work slowly kind of going away in some places. Hybrid for sure is definitely a thing. And like you said, keep a good open mind. Jim, final thoughts?
No, I don't. Other than as I had mentioned before, if having a viable opportunity is important to you, have some flexibility. That's key.
Joe, thanks for being here today. Our fun question for the day: what's your next travel destination?
Oh, interesting. You should say that. In 2 weeks, we're going to Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
How about you?
You know what? I believe so. On the 14th, that week of the 14th is fall break for the kids, and I think we're going to go to Chicago.
Lovely. Chicago's so much fun.
I love Chicago. It's a great town. So
Mhm.
I think we're going to Chicago at the later half of the week. So.
Excellent.
All right, guys, this has been Caffeinate Your Career for this week. Next week, Jim will be back, and we will be discussing how to beat out your competition.
We'll love that.
Yes, there's a lot of competition in the market today, so we'll talk about tips on how to get over on your competition and get to the employers.
Hopefully we'll see you there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.